I'm back at Lava Canyon at Mount St. Helens, and now I want to talk to you about the third phase of search. We've talked about indexing, we've talked about querying, now let's talk about results. The main thing to talk about in results, and the thing that really gets the most attention, and that's the most sort of interesting and also the most controversial about results, is rank. You can imagine that it makes a really big difference whether you're number 1 in the Google rank or whether you're number 3,564,000. Someone's got to be first and someone's got to be last, and if you're last, no one's going to find you. Google PageRank is a big deal. And Google PageRank is also the thing that started Google off. That's what the inventors of Google had in mind. That's what they originally invented. So let's look at the basic idea of Google PageRank. Now, there's a lot of factors that decide what page is going to be on top, but this is the central one. This is the one that everyone points to as the main way that pages are ranked on Google. So it's called PageRank, and it determines which page is going to be on top to a large extent. We'll talk about some other factors as well in a minute, but I'll scratch that and start again. Okay, we've talked about the first 2 out of 3 phases of Google search, indexing and querying, and I've showed you how a full text index can be used to answer the questions and return results. The last thing for us to talk about is what happens to those results that are returned. How are they displayed? How do you see them? What happens with them? And most importantly, which ones are on top? To understand which ones are on top, we're going to start with this idea of the Google PageRank. Now, as you'll see, there's lots of factors that determine which page is going to be on top, but the PageRank is really the major one. The PageRank is the first one. The PageRank is the most important one at Google. So how does PageRank work? Well, I can let you read this quote for yourself and unpack it, but what I want to do is instead kind of illustrate it, not just define it. So, if you were going to say which one should be first, how might you do it? Well, you might say the most popular page, the one that people like the best, the one that's most used, is the one that should be on top because that's how the people have voted, right? The people have voted in the web page popularity contest, and this page came to the top. And in fact, that's how the algorithm works, an algorithm being a process. That's how the process works for Google PageRank. We look at all the other pages that are pointing to your page, and if tons and tons of other pages are pointing to your page, then it gets higher on the rank. It gets more importance. It's considered to be more important because more people are paying attention to it. Okay, that's point A. Point B, which makes it even a little bit more sophisticated, is, and it matters how important the pages that are pointing to you are. If a bunch of unimportant pages, and when I say unimportant, I mean nobody points to them, are all pointing to your website, then that's less important than if a bunch of really important pages that everybody else is pointing to are pointing to your web page. So this idea of PageRank really has 2 parts. The more pages that point to you, the higher your rank, and the more important those pages are, the higher your rank. So a few very important pages can count a lot more than a bunch of pages pointing to you that aren't very important. So what is that? Kind of, it's a popularity contest, and the more popular you are, the more popular you're going to get because Google's going to put you on top. More people are going to see your page, more people are going to link to your page, et cetera, and that makes you even more popular. So the way I like to think about this, and the way that it kind of makes sense to me and also sort of points up what it shows about the underlying way that we think about web pages, is to think about a kindergarten classroom. First day of school, all the 5 and 6-year-olds are in the classroom, and one kid stands out for whatever reason. Maybe the kid makes a wisecrack, maybe the kid builds something really cool, and everybody starts paying attention to that kid. Now all the kids are paying attention to that one kid, and because they're paying attention to that one kid, everybody else starts to pay attention to them. And because everybody else is starting to pay attention to them, people pay even more attention to them. And they become sort of the center of activity. They become one of those hubs, right? That's kind of what we're talking about here. The page is a hub because a lot of other people are pointing to it. The kid is a hub because a lot of other kids are paying attention to them. Now the question is, and this is a really important question, should that be the most important kid in the class? Is that the kid that deserves the most attention? Would you consider that to be the most important kid in the class? Clearly they're the most popular kid in the class, And not only the most popular kid in the class because everybody's paying attention to them, but the second and third and fourth most popular kids are paying attention to them. So that gives them even more attention, because all the people who pay attention to the second and third and fourth most important kids are all paying attention to that first most important kid. So the question remains, is that the best kid? Is that the kid that everybody should be paying attention to? When in fact that kid maybe just did something kind of funny the first day of school or whatever. So what I mean to say by this extended example of PageRank is A, how it works. Popularity breeds popularity, brings something to the top. But B, that it has some shortcomings as well. Should those pages really be the most popular pages on the web? Should they really be the most popular just because they're popular? And the fact remains that the more popular they are, the more popular they get. So this mechanism tends to escalate popular pages and completely devastate unpopular pages, because no one ever gets to them through Google, so nobody ever knows to link to them, so they get less and less and less popular. So it's a vicious cycle for unpopular pages, but it's a virtuous cycle for popular pages. At any rate, that's how it works. And you can see in the diagram here yet another way to look at this. The diagram here is the same diagram I showed you before. It's a network diagram of web pages. Each of these web pages is connected to a bunch of other web pages. And depending on how many pages are pointing to it, it may be a very popular page. You can see the one I'm pointing to has tons of pages that are all pointing to it. That's a popular page. It may be a not popular page, like nobody's pointing to it, or it may be a reasonably popular page, like a bunch of things point to it. So if very popular pages are pointing to you, that makes your popularity even stronger. And it's very, very much akin to the social network that we talked about before. If you're a hub person in that social network with lots of people linked to you, you're going to be considered more important than an isolate person who only has one link to the rest of the network. Okay, that's the idea of PageRank, but the way results are ordered on Google only starts with PageRank. There's a ton of other things. So in this slide, you see a bunch of other things that count. And specifically, these are all about the search term. I search in this case for bore drill. All right, I'm some mechanic. I'm searching for bore drill. Which page is a better guess, is Google's better guess of the one that you want? First of all, we have this popularity thing, so that's definitely true, but there are other things that count as well. Specifically, how important does the concept of bore drill seem to be on this particular page? Is it just mentioned somewhere down on, 5 scrolls down the page, or is it what the page is all about? Obviously, if it's what the page is all about, it's more important. It should be higher in the ranking than one where it's just sort of mentioned. So what kind of things does Google look for to say, this page is all about bore drilling? Well, there's a number of things, and you can see them delineated here. The first one is it in the title? If it's in the title of the page, you can assume that that page is really about it. Think of the page kind of like a book, right? If the word bore drill is in the title of the book, well, you should probably pay attention to that book because it's an important concept there. It's in the title of the page. Pages are supposed to have titles on the web. They don't all have titles. If you, for example, if you Google the word untitled, which is what a lot of web creation tools put in if you don't put in a title, you'll find there's lots and lots of pages titled untitled on the web. But in this case, the title is bore drill, so that makes it a more important page. Is it in the URL? Is it boredrill.html? If it's boredrill.html, that may be a strong indication that this page really is about bore drills. Okay, some other places. Is it in the headings? Headings are the big bold lines on your web pages. And so a heading next to the title is kind of the next level down about what the page is about. If the word bore drill is on one of those headings, a first heading or a second heading or a third heading on the page, obviously the page is more about bore drills than if it isn't in those headings. Some other places that it looks are in the links on the page, or excuse me, yeah, on the links on the page, and if the links on the page are all about bore drills, the page is going to rank higher. In the images on the page, if there's a bunch of pictures of bore drills, and the pictures, how do you know the picture's about a bore drill? Because every picture is allowed to have a caption on a web page, and if in the caption it says bore drill, an indication that bore drills are even more important on that page. And then also in bullets. Bullets are those little circles followed by a sentence, and if you think about it, bullets outline the most important points of something, right? They're the highlighted points, and if the word bore drill is in there, that counts as well. So you can see that there are significant places, significant parts of the page where if your search term, if your query term bore drill is there, it really matters. It really counts. It escalates the page. It brings the page up in the rankings. So we have this popularity contest kind of ranking. We also have where your terms fall on the page. There are different things about your page that are considered important for ranking it higher. There's also literal ways that you can say to Google, this page is about bore drilling, please pay attention. Those aren't shown here, but I'll just tell you about them off to the side. So we have the popularity contest. We also have the position of your search terms on that page. Not only does it matter what's on your page, it also matters what's on the pages that point to your page. So it's not simply just the popularity contest of who links to your page and how popular are they. Google pays attention to the nature of the links to your page. For example, what's the page title of pages linking to your page? If all the page titles are bore drills and they all link to yours, then not only are they about bore drills, but they all recognize your page as being important as well. That's an indication that your page is more important and ought to rise to the top. The anchor text used in linking to you. So what that means is the name of the link. So if it says, hey, for more information about Vortex, see this really cool website, Vortex is right in the text of the link, and that means it's a more important link, and so that link is going to count higher. Are you getting the idea that this is really complicated and there's lots of computers crunching all night long trying to figure this stuff out? Well, if you got that idea, you got the right idea. The number and types of links linking in the websites that link to you, all these different things. The number of outbound links on the website that's linking to you. Is this a site that links a lot or a site that only links a little bit? The total number of the links on the website that's linking to you. Does this only have one link on the page and it's to you? That may be an indication that you're really important about that subject, or does it have a billion links and you're just one of a billion, right? All these things that count more. Are the websites linking to you deemed as an authority website by Google? That's more about the popularity of those websites. Are they considered themselves to be really important sites by all these criteria? Not only the popularity contest criteria, but the other criteria that I've mentioned. Okay, so we have the page ranking algorithm that ranks you by popularity and the popularity of the people who are linking to you. We have things that happen on your site that influence your rank, and we also have things that are happening on the sites that link to you that influence the rank. So you can imagine that this sort of goes round and round and round. I don't know if I've used the term iteration before, but that's what we're talking about. In order to figure out how popular you are, we have to figure out how popular are the sites that are linking to you. In order to figure out how popular the sites that are linking to you are, we have to figure out how popular the sites that link to them are. Round and round and round, going round and round the circle of popularity, of importance, and trying to figure out on a daily basis what's the most important page to take you to when you type in a certain search term. Okay. The idea that I'm talking about leads to an entire industry that was born because it really matters to people how high up they are on the Google ranking. If I know how to get you to number one, then I'm gonna be worth a lot of money to you, because the number one ranking on Google is a coveted place. Of all bore drills, this is the place to go, and I'll get you to be that kind of page. How do I do that? I know all the rules. I know the game. I know how Google ranks pages, and I know what to do to get you to rank higher, and I can do that. So in a way, it's a little bit like, if you want to get famous in Hollywood, get a good agent, because the agents know how to play the game. They know how to get you the good parts, and then once you got a good part and you're a star, your fame will start to take off by itself, exactly the same way as happens on Google. I'm going to call up one of these experts. They're going to get me to the top. Once I'm at the top, I'm going to take off because people are really going to be paying attention to me, and then my page is going to seem more and more important to Google, and it'll stay on the top. Okay, this idea is called search engine optimization, or SEO. Lots of people out there doing it. Lots of people out there trying to not only honestly make a page more important, but sort of scam Google, right? You can see already, how do I make your page number one? Well, you put the words in all of these places. And maybe I'm going to make a bunch of dummy pages that all are pointing back to my page, and I'm going to game the system. Google tries really hard to find out who's gaming them and blocks them off of the searches, but it happens, right? Any game that you can make up, there are ways of getting around the game. There are ways of playing that game to your advantage, and people who do search engine optimization, they do it honestly for the most part, but there are also ways of scamming it. Okay, it matters how high you rank on Google. There are people that know this subject that I've been just talking to you about very well. They know how to get you higher on Google, and they're called search engine optimizers. Okay, let's see, what else do I have to say to you guys? Okay, we're going to, okay, so in addition to the ones that I've talked about, there are lots of other factors. And let me zoom this out so I can actually read it. Okay, so Google will also mix results from different places. It'll mix news articles with videos, with images, etc. If they think that, well, they won't rank them only by category, they'll rank them by relevance. It doesn't matter if it's an image or a movie or whatnot. If it ranks high, it'll be the first thing up on your results. Past websites that you've visited may be ranked higher. So I know that you've gone to these 5 websites a lot of times, and these 5 websites are also ranking high, so I'm going to escalate them and go to the top of the search results. You can see here one of the things that Google does in order to stop people from gaming. If I put lots and lots of text in an anchor, in a link, then that will downgrade the ranking, and they may also bar that result from your search results. And then the pages themselves. Now this is an interesting one as well. How interlinked are the pages? If the pages are all interlinked, think of your social graph. If the people are all interlinked, it makes a group, right? It's a group of people who all know each other. And if the ranking of a certain page might be boosted if it's part of the group of pages on that subject. If it's part of the pages that are all on board drills, then it's more important because it's not just itself out there about board drills, it's part of the community of board drill pages. Okay, so these are all the things that, that Google takes into account. And I don't need you to know them in detail, and I don't need you to know them specifically, but I do need you to get the idea of how they work and that how all of these things interact. There's the popularity contest, there's how popular the popular pages are, and then there's how relevant they are. How relevant they are is judged by where your search words appear in those pages. So we have popularity and relevance. The popularity is all about how many links are coming to these pages, and the relevance is all about to what extent can I figure out that this page really is about or central to the kind of thing that you want to find. Okay, let's look briefly now. We've talked about the page ranking and which one comes up first, but let's look briefly at the structure or the user interface behind actually presenting a result. And you'll see in the video that I have of Dan that he talks a little bit about this as well, that they're constantly trying to find new ways of structuring the results so that they make the most sense to you, and that no matter how hard they try, it's always very easy for people to be mistaken and not find the right result. Okay, so 3 things to pay attention to. One is literally the structure of the result. And I want you now, you've seen the results a billion times. From now on, however, when you look at these search results, I want you to look more closely and pay attention. Also pay attention to, over time, how they change and how they manipulate them and what exactly they're showing you and what you're supposed to get out of that. That's the difference between a naive Google user and an experienced or an expert Google user. Is the expert Google user looks at a result and sees a lot of information in that result. An expert Google user looks at a query and says, I can do way better than just typing a bunch of words in the search box. So let's look at the structure. We have a title. That's the title of the page, and obviously click on that title, go to the page, you know that. Under that we have the full URL so that you can have an idea where did this come from. Is this from some obscure website, or is this from a website that I know and trust, that I've seen a bunch of times before? Then we have an excerpt. The excerpt is the part of that page that has your search terms in it, and those terms are bolded. As I said before, your search terms are often expanded to include synonyms. So if you search for picture, it'll also look for graphics. And that word graphic is also shown in the result set, but it's shown in a dimmer form. Your search terms are shown in bold, and the dimmer form is what shows synonyms that Google is also using. Okay, then when you mouse over the result, now they just put this in, and I think this was a result. This was a response to Bing, the Microsoft search engine, who I think did this first. When you mouse over a result, it gives you a little thumbnail of the page. And I think on this thumbnail of the page is the place where you can see the cached result. I don't think they show you the cached. Remember, the cache is where they put pages when they bring them down off the web. You can see that cache that has all your words highlighted on the page, and I think you get to it from this thumbnail now. You used to get to it directly from the result presentation, but now you got to go to the thumbnail. Okay, the final thing is, in general, they're clustered by type, but as I said before, Google will break those type clusterings if you want it to. If you, if it feels like different types of results, videos, images, news, regular old web pages, if it feels like they're more relevant, it will mix those now. Okay, that's the result presentation. And I don't really want to go into any more detail about it than that, but I do want you to start paying attention to it and say, as an advanced Google searcher, I really pay attention to those results, and they tell me stuff. They tell me a lot. I oftentimes don't have to click on the page at all because the presentation of the results tells me everything that I need to know. Okay, so once you have the results displayed, you can filter those results. That filtering is also called refining. You can filter or refine the results. The idea of a filter is I pour the results through that filter, and a lot of them get filtered out. A lot of them don't come through to the other end. And here I have an image of, here I have a screenshot of a filter when you're looking at pictures, and it's kind of an interesting filter. So for example, you can filter by color, you can filter by size. So these are all things Google knows about the pictures. So think about that. For every picture, Google has made some analysis of what colors are in that picture so that you can refine your search by color. In general, this happens once the results are displayed. It allows you to further filter or constrain the results. And the idea is you're going to return fewer results that are more appropriate to you, and it's you who's doing the filtering. Google does filtering, as I showed you before. Google further refines the results and gets rid of some results based on things that it's doing internally using its own algorithms. These are the kinds of filters that you apply yourselves. And not only does Google use these refinements, lots of other sites use these refinements, and it's really worthwhile to pay attention to them because it tells you a lot about how the information is stored on Google and what they pay attention to. Like, for example, they pay attention to the color of images. Okay, we're through Google search. And so let me summarize the entire subject matter quickly and give you some of the main points that we talked about. Step number one. Google sends out its bots, its crawlers all over the web that it knows about. And I talked before about that Google doesn't see the entire web, but Google sees a decent chunk of the web. It goes to the main sites, it spiders out from those main sites, and it finds a good portion of what's on the web, and it downloads it into its cache. So step one, spider. Step two, get all these pages into the cache. Step three, create that full text search index that has the word, it has the page that word occurred on, and it has the position on that page. Then when you query, it looks in that index and it uses the page and the position and the word to figure out the results that match the conditions or the criteria of your query. It then that it has those results, it ranks them, puts number one first. We talked about all the different ways that it figures out which ones are first, broken down generally into the idea of popularity and relevance. The more popular the page is, the higher it goes. The more relevant, based on the positions of the words on the page, the higher it goes. And then you get some result that's first. That's Google's best guess of the one you want to look at most, followed by the next one that you want to look at the next most, all the way down to the one it thinks you want to look at the least, the one that's least responsive, the least matched to your query. It shows you those results. And I showed you the basic user interface behind those results, showing that each little piece of the results tells you something different, and it's encoded in a way that if you understand what the code is, like for example, bolded search terms, you can get a lot of information out of those results. And then finally, it lets you further filter or further refine the results by clicking on things on the result page to see if you can't narrow down the results to just the ones you're looking for.